One, are you listening in Australia? Are you listening in Dubai? Well, you too can get not a green card, but a gold card to the United States of America for $5 million. Plus, lawsuits have been launched all across the United States to stop Donald Trump's executive orders. But which executive orders have hit the skids? Where are we on all of these various suits to stop Donald Trump? Two, let's talk about the cult that has murdered at least 6 people across the United States of America. Ziz with Kennedy. 3, you, the Willitia. Join us here today on The Will Cain Show. It is The Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel and the Fox News Facebook page. Terrestrial radio, 3 dozen markets across the United States of America, but always available on demand by subscribing at Apple or on Spotify. We are expecting within the hour the Attorney General's office to release the Epstein flight logs. Who was on Jeffrey Epstein's flights? What names? Don't know exactly what to promise, but Attorney General Pam Bondi, when pressed last night by Jesse Waters, suggested we will be releasing information on Jeffrey Epstein, possibly in the 12 o'clock hour Eastern time. We're going to be watching that here as this show unfolds. The boys back in New York, two-a-days, Young Establishment James, Tinfoil Pat, will be watching for that throughout the hour. If it breaks, we're going to bring it to you live right here. This video was passed around by the 4 of us.
Uh-oh.
And I did not notice this during the press conference earlier this week, the meeting between French President Emmanuel Macron and President Donald Trump. But this video that's making its way around the internet certainly did. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, you're going to see what is very awkward. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, I will try to describe what happens between these two and their hands. Watch.
Don't you?
This video
James is trying to
Donald Trump
recreate it.
Placing his hand on Emmanuel Macron's knee. And then Macron grabs Trump's hand. And then I can't tell, is Trump trying to pull it back? Macron won't let him. And then Macron puts his hand on Donald Trump's knee. It's a lot of hand fighting.
Yeah.
It's simultaneously aggressive and intimate. And many have pointed out, it's not the first or the last awkward handshakes between Emmanuel Macron and Donald Trump. Here's some of the history of their handshakes. This is the infamous one of Donald Trump with elbow high,
so weird,
dominating over Emmanuel Macron. Oh. Here he is pulling Macron in, like all the way to his body, which then shifts into sort of a, what do you call that, a bro handshake?
Yeah, like
they're fighting.
Shifts.
Like a man unite kind of like.
Well,
yeah. Every handshake is a fight, to your point, James. It's like, I guess it's, and then that.
Well,
then,
is it dominance?
It's because you're familiar with the classic Trump handshake, right? Has he ever done that to you? Where he reaches out and you're doing the handshake and he kind of like brings you in and you kind of have to, you're like he just completely emasculates you.
It's like a dominance thing.
And it's Macron like knowing like, okay, Trump is going to do this. How am I going to like what's your reaction? Like Rogan talked about it. When he did it, he's like, first time he got me. Second time, feet planted, just held it. Like, what do you do?
Yeah,
what do you do in that
will.
situation?
He'll pull you in tight, and it pulls you off balance. And so it's extended, and then it's retracted once it's gripped your hand. So it grips your hand, then it retracts and pulls you over on your toes. And yeah, you've been dominated. You know, that's one version of dominance. I grew up, I knew a guy that quick gripped you. You know, the quick grip. So you go in for a handshake and he closes before you can close. So he ends up gripping your fingers and you feel ladyfied, you know, as though you had just given him the Queen's handshake.
Yeah.
But this is a dominance thing. I don't know what Macron is doing in response. He's trying to do something in response, right? So we end up in this handshake battle. And that's where we end up in the infamous Trump dominance handshake, where he's elbow high over Macron. And I don't get that one. Like, that one is super weird to me, but now it makes some sense that we're like in round 7 of a 12-round bout on these handshakes. And it's the weirdest one ever when Trump puts his hand on Macron's knee and then Macron puts his hand on top of Trump's hand, which is intimate. And then it looks like Trump tries to retract it and Macron holds tight, right? Won't let him go.
You know what this
Trump
is like?
can't get his hand back.
This is like Ricky Bobby and Gene Gerard in Talladega Nights, the Sacha Baron Cohen character player. Kind of just a little rivalry.
Yeah.
Rivalry.
But have you
I guess.
have you met like a new guy, like a buddy or something like that, and you guys do either go for a handshake or like the side, half hug thing, and it gets awkward.
Oh,
you don't know what someone's going
and
to
now
do.
we've added the dap.
Yeah,
Which is
and it's
growing
like,
increasingly common. Yeah, so every time you go in with a guy now, you're not sure what we're doing.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, do I just define what we're doing or do I try to figure out what he's doing? And then like on the dap, like, is that I almost wonder if that's not, we're trying to be cool, but some guys have germ issues,
Yeah.
right? And so
Chris DiStefano did when
dap
he came
is-
in
He did
here.
just a boom, boom.
Yeah, he was a pound right away.
It's okay.
a fist bump
Do it.
guy.
Yeah.
That was simple.
I don't mind the fist bump. I mean, the good old fashioned handshake is the best thing, and there's a lot that goes into
Hey,
that.
who's that?
There's a lot to read. Yeah, I've got a co-host here with me today who's unsettled at the moment. It makes me again nervous with all the wires, but Saint is roaming around
Uh-oh.
the studio, and he is not. He has bad spatial awareness, so it makes me nervous. He doesn't know where he's putting his everything: his feet, his nose, his head. But
Was that
I thought we
planned or
tried
did
this
he
out for a
sneak
little
in
while. No, he just came in when I sat down to do the show, and he hasn't left. So I thought I'd let him hang. We'll see how it goes. He doesn't handshake. He has no handshake. Just shoves his body all the way on top of yours.
Does he know paw?
All right. No, he doesn't shake yet. He doesn't know that. We haven't learned to shake. All right. So fascinating little moments between Donald Trump and Emmanuel Macron. Maybe Emmanuel Macron will be a recipient of a gold card. Let's get into it with story number 1. Donald Trump announced that they are going to be pioneering the new gold card for immigrants to the United States. It replaces, for those that can afford it, the green card. For $5 million, you can get an expedited pass to the United States of America. Trump laid out the idea here on the gold card.
We're going to be selling a gold card. You have a green card. This is a gold card. We're going to be putting a price on that card of about $5 million, and that's going to give you green card privileges plus. It's going to be a route to citizenship, and wealthy people will be coming into our country by buying this card. They'll be wealthy, and they'll be successful, and they'll be spending a lot of money and paying a lot of taxes and employing a lot of people. And we think it's going to be extremely successful. And never been done before, anything like this.
I think it's fascinating. It kind of makes you flinch in the beginning, the idea that wealthy people can buy their way into the United States of America. There's something about it that reminds you of, I don't know, the Catholic Church selling of penances, or wealthy people being able to game any kind of system if you have enough money. But on the other hand, it is in line with the vision of American immigration that says, send us your brightest and your best. And I know that's not what it says underneath the Statue of Liberty, but we're well beyond the immigration days of the 1800s. And most acknowledge now that immigrants should, A, buy into the vision of the United States of America, its values and its culture, and should add something to the United States, add something valuable. And it's in stark contrast to the type of immigration that we saw under the Biden administration, which was basically unfettered and open, but also became, therefore, a haven for refugees, those leaving third world countries, those unskilled and uneducated. And that became coming the primary force of American immigration. We bringing the educated, we bringing the rich into the United States of America is an attractive proposition. It also is something that could pay down, as sold by President Trump, the national debt, or at least reduce the national deficit. Howard Lutnick, Commerce Secretary, laid out that proposition. Listen.
if one of them comes in, think of the jobs they're going to bring with them, the businesses they're going to bring with them, and they're going to pay American taxes as well. So this is huge money for America.
And how many people are waiting in this line currently?
So there are 250,000 people waiting in line now. If they're willing to pay the $5 million, that's over $1 trillion. That comes directly to $1.25 billion just for that line. And I think these people are going to come enormous ways because they know they can come into America and they can be in the greatest country on earth.
250,000 people in line to pay $5 million. $1 trillion, at least in a one-time fee. Then there's the issue of what they pay in taxes afterwards. Also, what they contribute to the economy. What jobs do they create? What companies do they create? It seems to be a program that would financially have a net positive to the United States of America. I still think there are questions about how would they be vetted. Simply being rich is not good enough to get to the United States of America. How much do they buy into the dream of America? These are all things that need to be explained and worked out, but it's an interesting and innovative way that we continue to look at disrupting the way things are done in America, the gold card. But for every disruption and every innovative path to move forward, there are skids, there are breaks. And in this case, the left is playing the game of lawfare to hit the brakes on Donald Trump. You've heard about this. You've heard about the different court cases that are interfering with Trump's executive orders. At this point, I think it would be hard for you or me to put a number on the number of executive orders that have been signed by Donald Trump, much less how many have been stopped by legal filings. Well, here we have it, though. Trump has signed 76 executive orders, but 21 have been challenged in 75 different lawsuits. And of those challenged, there are 10 now not being enforced. Here are the 10 executive orders that have been blocked in the court system. Number one, the suspension of the U.S. refugee admissions program. Number two, the removal of information from HHS websites under executive order on gender ideology extremism. 3, housing of transgender inmates. 4, dismantling of USAID. 5, DOJ review of FBI personnel involved in January 6th investigations. 6, birthright citizenship. 7, ban on gender-affirming care for individuals under the age of 19. 8, protecting children from chemical and surgical mutilation. 9, ending radical and wasteful government DEI programs and preferencing. And 10, ending illegal discrimination and restoring merit-based opportunity. All of those currently being challenged in the court system. There is a victory, though, as of yesterday. The Supreme Court of the United States paused an order for the Trump administration to release foreign aid and the firing of federal agency director. So those executive orders had been stopped by a federal district judge, but Chief Justice John Roberts last night at midnight decided to pause that order from the lower court for the Trump administration to unfreeze nearly $2 billion in foreign aid payments. That was imposed by a lower judge. So he wants to pause foreign aid. A lower judge said, no, you will not unfreeze it. The Supreme Court says, no, they're allowed to proceed. While all of these cases make their way through the federal judicial system and possibly landing at the Supreme Court. 10 of 79 right now hit the brakes on this, what some would call progress for America. All right, Kennedy on this death cult, also curiously wrapped up in gender fluidity and trans ideology that's getting very little attention. Ziz. When we come back on The Will Cain Show. Have you ever wondered what happened to the legendary Chuck Norris? I recently saw a video he made and I was shocked. He's in his 80s and he's still kicking butt and working out and staying active. And what's even more shocking is he's stronger, can work out longer, and even has plenty of energy left over for his grandkids. He did this by just making one change. He says he still feels like he's in his 50s. His wife even started doing this one thing too, and she's never felt better. She says she feels 10 years younger. Her body looks leaner, and she has energy all day. Chuck made a special video that explains everything. Make sure you watch it by going to chuckdefense.com/Cain or by clicking on the link below this video. It will change the way you think about your health. Once again, that's chuckdefense.com/CAIN, and click on the link in the description box below to watch the video. You won't believe how simple it is. Just a reminder, the legendary Chuck Norris is a whopping 84 years old and yet has more energy than me. He discovered he could create dramatic changes to his health simply by focusing on 3 things that sabotage our body as we age. Watch his method by clicking on the link in the description box below. chuckdefense.com/Cain. Kennedy, next on The Will Cain Show. The death cult wrapped up in trans ideology and rationalist thinking. Ziz. This is The Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com on the Fox News YouTube channel and the Fox News Facebook page. Always on demand by hitting subscribe at Apple, Spotify, or on YouTube. Joining me now is Kennedy. Kennedy, rattle off for me, because I don't want to get it wrong, all the shows that you host and that I've been on. You're on Outnumbered. You got the Kennedy Cocktail Hour. I don't think I got the title exactly right, but remind us everywhere we're getting the brilliance of Kennedy.
I really appreciate that, Will. It's so great to be back with you. I'm wearing my paella hat from Paella Maui because we both love Maui and we want her to rebuild in all of her glory. I'm on Kennedy Saves the World. If you go to Fox News Podcasts, you can find my show. It's 5 days a week, including happy hour on Fridays, where I like to make a specialty cocktail for my favorite Fox coworkers. This week, in honor of Mardi Gras, Sandra Smith is going to come by, and I am making her a chocolate-covered strawberry old-fashioned, which was delightful. And she is going to gift me with some of her favorite things from Louisiana. I'm also a columnist for Daily Mail. You can go to dailymail.com. I write under the mononym Kennedy. And you can also see me on Outnumbered. I'm often on with Stuart Varney. I fill in on The Five when they send out the bat signal. And, you know, of course, happy to be here with you, Will.
Kennedy Saves the World, though. That's where you need to get her on a regular basis. Kennedy Saves the World. Mardi Gras is a tough one. Like, I've been to Mardi Gras a few times. What is a traditional Mardi Gras drink? The daiquiri?
The Hurricane.
The Hurricane.
So the Hurricane is really, I mean, I associate that with New Orleans the most. And it's funny because if you go online and look for a Hurricane recipe, it's all over the map. It's basically, it's like a Long Island iced tea with Kool-Aid, with fruit punch Kool-Aid. It's not necessarily spirit specific. You can pretty much throw anything in there with red sugary juice and call it a Hurricane. We had one a couple of years ago at a New Orleans themed bar before the pandemic, and that was fantastic, really fun, celebratory. Get you very hungover if you drink more than one because of the sugar content. But people may have bigger problems at Mardi Gras than a hangover if they're doing it like they are going to YOLO in Louisiana.
In like a Long Island iced tea, it's not just the sugar, though. It's multiple forms of alcohol in one drink.
Yes.
Like the whole don't mix. The idea is, no, we're going to mix. We're going to mix it all in one glass.
Do it. Yeah. Let's just keep doing that.
I think we got Kennedy still here with me. I had a cut out there for just a second, Kennedy. Hey, there's this story. Before I get into some of the stories we've talked about with Ziz, I'm very curious about. This Gene Hackman story. Gene Hackman's died. Yeah, he was 95. So it's like, and he had disappeared from public life for a while. By the way, Gene Hackman, incredible actor. You've seen him in everything. Maybe my favorite movie of Gene Hackman's is The Royal Tenenbaums.
Oh my God, I love that movie. And I was going over the list of his films. His performance in that is absolutely perfect. I'm so glad you brought that up.
I totally agree. I totally agree. His performance is incredible in that movie. And it was hard for me because it was my dad. Like, my dad was Royal Tenenbaum in a lot of ways. Not in New York old school, but my favorite line my brothers and I laugh at is when he's walking with Angelica Houston, his wife, and they're like talking about what's wrong with their kids. He goes, "It's not your fault. It's my fault. Or anyways, it's nobody's fault." It's his inability. For a moment, he took some accountability, but immediately, no. Anyway, it's nobody's fault.
Yeah, it's no one's fault. Yeah, they just show up how they show up. I love that. But my favorite thing about that movie is him getting Ben Stiller's, because Ben Stiller is so uptight, and him taking the kids and just giving them the best time of their life. And that was my dad. My dad was the parent who was like, he got us all motorcycles when we were kids, and I was 5, and he got me a Honda 50. And I remember I had a big white helmet, and I put the 5 on top of the helmet. And my brother's like, "Oh, what is that, for an airplane to see you?" But yeah, my dad was like, I'm giving you bags full of fireworks on 4th of July. I'm giving you motorcycles, and we're going to go whitewater rafting every weekend. And we might die doing all of it, but we're going to have a great time.
I got Yamaha Zingers when we were like 10, 12 years old. Yamaha Zingers were the 3-wheelers, which I don't even think they really put out 3-wheelers much anymore because they were so dangerous.
They're so dangerous. Oh, my God.
They were terrible. My dad also would have wanted Royal Tenenbaum's headstone, which was, what was it, that he saved his family from drowning on the high seas during like, that's perfectly for what my dad would have wanted for his headstone, what was given to Royal Tenenbaum. No, but Gene Hackman's dead at 95, but oddly what catches everyone's attention is so is his wife and so is his dog. And I'm looking at this headline now from the New York Post. It says that Gene Hackman's daughter suspects they died, because immediately when you see that, you think foul play, but that they possibly died of carbon monoxide poisoning. By the way, speaking of my dad, that's something that I'm terrified of, because he was an attorney, he was a plaintiff's lawyer, and I'm constantly terrified of like propane gas tanks, gas leaks, anything like that. So I don't know that we know yet what happened with Gene Hackman, but super odd that his wife and dog accompanying him.
Okay, these are my 2 guesses. So the first one, I didn't think foul play because the headlines weren't like, oh, there was a bloody massacre at the Hackman compound. The Hackman compound was a very modest house. So for people who think their lives are over when they're not as famous as they used to be, do what Gene Hackman did. Reduce your footprint and go live somewhere beautiful and stop worrying about getting clicks and likes. Just go live your life in nature and don't worry about being famous anymore. That's what a lot of people should do. But, instead, they take drugs, they take their own lives. So the Gene Hackman route, he obviously died in a beautiful place, lived a long time in a happy 30-year marriage. He was married twice for 30 years. So I guess, that's a pretty good run both times. My first thought was carbon monoxide. My second thought was, perhaps he was so dependent on his wife. I thought she maybe had a heart attack, and then he just didn't know how to feed himself, so he kind of laid down and died, and the dog's like, yeah, I'm starving, I'm going to die too. But the dog would have started after, a few weeks, the dog, like cats eat you immediately. Dogs wait a while, but there was no report of human eating dog. So the dog eating the humans. So
wow.
I just assume it's carbon monoxide.
Yeah, you went to one of your. Here's an option, and here's a very extreme option. Yeah. But and not to make light, but I have read about what you talk about. A cat will go after a dead person, but a dog will not.
No, the dog is like, I love you. I'm dumb but loyal. I think you're still gonna wake up, and when you wake up, you're gonna take me for a walk, and we're gonna play, and we're gonna snuggle. And it's not until the dog is like, I cannot breathe another breath. I'm going to expire. I'm so sorry I have to eat your face. Whereas a cat's like, well, you haven't moved in 20 minutes, so I'm just going to go ahead and devour you.
Yeah, you're at risk every nap that the cat may go after you. Like, that's your window of safety with a cat. Okay, Kennedy, I'm fascinated by this story. In fact, I'm going to be focusing on it on the Fox News channel as well. I think this is incredible in that we as a society and me as an individual, I don't know about you, Kennedy, I'm fascinated by things like the Manson story. I'm fascinated by the Jonestown cult. And they're always fascinating as a retrospective in history. I wonder how they were consumed in the moment because I wasn't, a big part of the news cycle when those things unfolded. We kind of have something like that unfolding in real time, although it's probably, I would assume, somewhat over now, with what appears to be a cult called the Zizians. And they share some similarities with other cults in that they're often highly educated and then sometimes very accomplished, or at least on their path to accomplishment in their career, individuals. And they fall into this rabbit hole situation of joining this group. In this case, it's by an individual by the name of Ziz, that goes by Ziz, that is transgender. This dude that is the leader of the cult. So the articles refer to him as a her throughout, but I think you deserve, everyone listening, some accuracy in describing our situation here. But managed to wrap up a bunch of people into this cult. And from there, at least 6 different homicides, including the Border Patrol agent up in Vermont, seem to be connected to members of this cult. What do you think?
So it's very interesting because I was reading about this and I was reading their backgrounds, and you're talking about, computer scientists and intellectuals who had diverged from a group of rationalists. Now, I study philosophy, and I consider myself to be a rationalist or an objectivist, meaning that I feel like the world can be objectively known. It is, I am not solipsistic. I do not believe in a subjective nature of reality that changes based on the person. I believe that that reality and creation have an objective nature, and we have to use our rational capacity in order to fully access as much as we can the objective nature of reality. So I was like, okay, rationalism is good. Plato was a rationalist. Immanuel Kant thought that intuition superseded rationalism. I don't know that I disagree with that. I think intuition is very important. But the point is, these were very smart people who were in their heads a lot, thought about things. And I think what happens is when academia and intelligentsia doesn't fill the void within you, unless you are seeking kind of intense mental health help and therapy, you can be susceptible to people who are willing to extend conclusions irrationally in order to explain your void. And then with cults, cults always have to have one person who is the most important person, who is a messiah-like figure who has all the answers. Think the Bhagwan, if you saw Wild Wild Country on Netflix. I lived through that as a teenager in Oregon. There was a girl I went to junior high school with. Her dad was a very successful lawyer, left his family, sold everything, left the mom and the kids broke, and devoted his life to the Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh and Rajneesh Puram in Antelope, Oregon. And I saw this happening before my eyes. David Koresh, Waco, if there's one person with all the answers, that's a very attractive thing, especially if you've gone through higher education and gone as far as you can go and gotten a PhD and you still don't have the answers. If you have the person who speaks your language and understands your intellectual pursuits, but then can take it one step further. And this guy said, the brain has 2 hemispheres. The hemispheres operate independently of each other. So essentially there are 2 selves. It's like you could stop there and maybe there is some neuroscience data that backs that up, but then said the sides can come in conflict with each other and will want to kill each other. And, one side is transgender, and Ziz said that transgender women are the smartest, best people in the world. So, he laid out this logical chain, which is, irrational on its face, like Scientology. It diverges and has some real problems. I'm sure as a smart guy, like he has an answer for everything. And so he attracted these adherents who were also militant vegans. And I'm sure we all know people who are vegan, like, I think anything with a soul, with a face has a soul, and we can't eat that being. And I'm like, meat is delicious, and we evolved with some sharp teeth to eat meat. And that's why we are so satisfied when we have a nice, juicy, medium rare ribeye, because it's delicious, and we evolved to find it to be delicious. So that's not just a divergence of opinions. These people are like, if you are not vegan, you are a murderer, and therefore we're justified in taking your life. So one of the adherents, her parents mysteriously died, and there's Nest cam footage of a scream, someone going, "Mom," and then, "Oh no," and then people running out of the house. And then there's the trooper who was killed, and a guy who was stabbed in the eye with samurai swords by some of these people, and then he was stabbed to death before he could testify. And one of the people who's accused of murdering that guy was engaged to, if I'm not mistaken, the woman in the cult whose parents were murdered. And there are all these deaths, and, people who had cut themselves off completely from their families because their families continue to eat meat. And in some cases, the cutoff was so extreme, apparently the parents were murdered by people affiliated with the group. So I understand that they're all kind of in custody. One has been charged with murder. Where is the forensic evidence in all of these cases? And didn't we learn anything from Ted Bundy that law enforcement agencies have to share data with each other?
So much in that answer. Let's start with the philosophical side of stuff. So they are described as rationalists. I think at one point I would have described myself as an objectivist. I was very into Ayn Rand, and I still am. I still think that she's a genius, and I love her books, Atlas Shrugged, Fountainhead, many more, Anthem, that I've read. Is rationalism basically the same thing as objectivism, the acknowledgement of an objective world and trying to understand it through reason and logic?
For me, they are, if they're not the same, they're very compatible.
Okay. So, but I think as I've gotten older, you point out Kant. Kant was a philosophical adversary, although they weren't contemporaries, of someone like Ayn Rand. Sees the world subjectively and intuitively. But I think I've made room for that in my life.
Is his most famous work.
Right. And I think I've made more room for that in my life, Kennedy, in that I do think there is such thing as intuition. And I do think there are parts of the world that are not objectively capable of being understood. That's not the same thing as subjectivism, but that leaves room for some mysticism, for faith.
Oh, I'm a big believer in faith and mysticism.
Correct. That there are forces and elements in life that can't be broken down into objectively rational, understandable components. So I've made room for that. What I don't understand is how a rationalist could embrace the subjectivism of transgender ideology. Transgender ideology, I think, is Western civilization's most hyper obvious example of subjectivism, that the world can be and you can be as you choose or define. Now, I understand that there is an argument that trans would make. It's like it's an objective reality that I am trans or whatever it may be. But most science and biology that we understand in the physical world does not support that. It requires some type of psychological explanation. But that takes you back to subjectivism. So again, we're trying to understand a cult, but I don't understand a cult describing itself as rationalist that embraces the idea of trans.
Yeah, I think the term rationalism, because it sounds very concrete, and that's what's attractive about it. Like, I love math because math pretty much has one answer. It's like a phone number. You can't be one number off and reach the person you're trying to talk to.
Right.
But, because it is such a concrete term, it's a wonderful term to bastardize and conveniently make your own So you can say, I'm a rationalist. I believe this. I also believe this. So as a rationalist, B must be completely true. And because this is how I believe in accessing the world, information, and knowledge, then because, this is how I feel, and feelings are subjective, therefore, this must also exist under the umbrella of rationalism.
Right.
So it is an illogical step based on fallacy, but if you make an idea, if you think about it enough and make it complete enough, for people who feel incomplete, they are willing to overlook the fallacies in order to accept your argument if it makes them feel better.
So this Ziz cult, I guess they call themselves the Zizians. I'm trying to figure out how many. I said it's half a dozen murders, but the most famous one is the one that made the news, I'd say 2 or 3 weeks ago, right? Which is the killing of a Border Patrol agent up in Vermont. And you said these were highly educated people. These are people that left Wall Street jobs. These are people that left college enrollment at places like Rice and other, big time colleges. It talked about part of what they were doing was sleep deprivation.
Oh, God.
There was physical abuse. There was a lot of sex stuff going on as well.
There's always sex stuff in the cults.
There always is.
That was
Isn't
a big
that
thing
interesting?
with the Bhagwan. Like the Bhagwan was like, I've got a vow of silence that I'm going to fulfill for 3 years, but I'm going to collect 83 Rolls Royces, and you can all bone each other. So everyone left their family because they're like, I can go have sex with like literally anyone I want, any time of day, and we're doing it for God.
But the cult leader gets the most privileges.
Yes.
Whether or not it's David Koresh
Yeah.
or the Bhagwan guy, the leader, he's the godlike figure, has ultimate privileges.
Membership has its
sex.
rewards.
And that was the other cult up in New York, right? What is it? Is NX IM? The one that got wrapped up some famous actresses and actors
yes.
in it? It was a sex cult. Sex is at the base of a lot of these explanations here, Kennedy. Sex is, whether or not we're talking about cults or, look, the trans stuff taking place in those chat rooms inside the intelligence community. It was protected under the banner of DEI.
Okay,
but that was stuff.
Is it
that
because
was kink
that
they were airing out on company channels?
All those people know that if they were discussing those things on Slack or, Facebook Messenger or via text, that all of those could be accessed either by the telecommunications company, the social media network, or the government. So they're like, our chat line here at work is impervious because we work for the NSA. That was the only excuse I could think of. Like, these perverts who are grooming each other, it's like, why should we have any comportment when we've got people going, hey, man, if you want to bone, just do it out in the open. Like, that's what human beings are designed for. Life is
That's how protected they
great.
felt.
Yes.
To your point, that's how protected they felt, like under the banner of DEI. Like, whatever you are, an aggrieved minority or whatever it may be, this is now a protected class with this protected style of conversation. Because you're right. Like, they had to know this isn't private. This is on government channels. And think about the boldness to put that on there. How covered you must have felt.
Yes, because you work for the NSA and you know that the FBI, the CIA, the post office, which had, one of the biggest secret surveillance apparatuses in all of federal government, like, they can't spy on you. Like, it's all safe here at the NSA. And since, it's codified that we could get freaky deaky and be completely protected and unfireable, that we might as just, air this stuff out right now. Tell me about your Snap-on unit. Was that fun?
Yeah. All right, Kennedy, do you make anything of this? Take a look at this chart. This shows alcohol sales by generation.
Oh.
Kennedy, are you Gen X? I'm Gen X.
Yeah, I am Gen X. Comfortably.
You were like, I think you're one of the like prototypical Gen Xers. Like if people wrote a book on Gen Xers, you would probably have to be included.
Douglas Copeland, who wrote the book Generation X, was at one of my parties when I worked at MTV, and my roommate, Sherry, who was an SVP of music talent at MTV, we would have these like raging parties in our mini loft, and Douglas Copeland was there, and I was sitting at the table with him, and I'm like, this is so funny. I don't know why, but it's going to mean something at some point. And yeah, he coined the term Generation X. But yeah, I see Gen Xers.
Oh.
Gen Xers don't buy as much booze as millennials, which kind of surprises me.
Yeah, that's fascinating, isn't it? Boomers, the biggest alcohol sales by generation. Gen X, a slight dip. And then millennials, more than Gen X. But all of them, like, way higher than Gen Z. And that's what everybody's pointing out. Mm-hmm. Now, I want to say this out front so people don't think I'm stupid. But I pointed out, I have a son who's Gen Z. He's 17. I hope he's not at the store buying alcohol. That doesn't mean I'm so naive to think he's never drank alcohol, but he's not going to be registering on that chart. And by the way, I think Gen Z goes all the way to 2010 or so, so that could include a 15-year-old. So do you think this is a reflection
2010 or 2012?
The beginning of it's always rough, by the way. What's Gen X? 65 to 80?
Yeah, I think it's 65 to 80.
I think that's right. So, do you think this is just a reflection that half of the generation of Gen Z yet can't buy alcohol? They legally cannot. Or is it that they're not drinking like previous generations? And then you say why?
They don't drink as much because, one, they vape constantly and they're more addicted to nicotine than they are to alcohol. And they also have legal weed everywhere. And so many more of them would prefer to tune out with gummies and smoking weed, that because like to us, like weed in our brains, it's still illegal. You know, it's like it's something you only do in secret with people you really, really trust because you don't want to get a reputation as a stoner. Whereas there is a completely different perception of marijuana and edibles and THC because they don't even call it marijuana. It's like THC, you know, THC and CBD. And, you know, it's like, in my Instagram feed, there are people like, I feel so much better in the morning. Like, I'm never hungover. My joints feel great. And I'm so productive because I'm having these gummies. And I'm like, I eat hair gummies and gummies for my nails. I'm like, what are those? And it's like, I'm allergic to THC, so I would never buy something like that. But I'm like, it's not marketed like, you know, Cheech and Chong, where, you know, it's like Cheech and Chong and Cypress Hill. Like, there were hip-hop artists who were stoners and comics, and it's like, but it was associated with a vibe. Like the people, we had a smoking section in our high school, and we used to call it
was part of your identity.
Yes.
It was like, to your point.
Yeah, but
it
now
was part
it's
of
like,
your image.
oh, alcohol is gross and dirty, and it makes you feel awful. I'm just going to have a gummy and watch Netflix for 6 days.
Right. Let's go to our one Gen Zer on the show. So, young James, do you think that's true? That more people your age, you're in the portion of Gen Z that is capable of buying alcohol legally. Mm-hmm. Do you think that people your age are choosing to, you know, take a gummy or whatever it may be instead of buying alcohol?
Yeah, I mean, we had this conversation last night. That's probably percentage-wise the biggest option of it. I made the argument last night that a lot of it has to do with the Fitbits now that we all have them, and for the first time we get direct data on like what it does to our sleep and our health stats.
Too informed.
I mean, like the second you get like a 2% on your like Whoop sleep score, you're like, oh, maybe you start rethinking it a little bit.
Oh yeah, alcohol destroys your sleep. It sucks.
Yeah.
And we're obsessed with it. So
you think young people are possibly just making better health decisions, not looking to just get high?
I think it's a little more of like, it's kind of all or nothing now. Like, we might go out on a Friday night till 4 a.m., but the other 6 days of the week, nothing.
And as a millennial, actually,
2 days.
a lot of my friends have stopped drinking alcohol and only consume marijuana products. Not me personally, but they've traded it out for that, which is a new thing because back in college, you know, millennials, we drank kegs, all that kind of thing. So it's changed in our generation a little bit.
Well, that's when we have to bring in Alex Berenson now again to talk about the dangers of weed.
Can I tell you?
Reefer
Can I tell you?
Nation.
So a friend of mine is a cardiologist in LA, and he was like, "Do you know about the latest trend?" I'm like, "No, tell me everything." And he's like, "The West Side moms, which are moms who are a little bit more affluent. These are the white SUV moms. The moms drive white SUVs. They're not necessarily white women, because there's the whole thing. Black SUV.
Is that
mom,
a thing?
Yes. So black SUV mom or white SUV mom. I am a black SUV mom, and my daughters, 15 and 19, have confirmed that. And the black SUV mom, will crank Guns N' Roses, and there's goldfish all over the back, and it's like we're having a good time. White SUV moms, everything is decanted in their fridge. They, all of their plastic snack vessels are BPC free, and they give their kids coconut water, and they play spa music, and it's like whatever. So the white SUV moms on the west side of LA they take gummies, they get super hungry, they eat, and they're all on Ozempic, which I think is hysterical. It just goes to show you where culture has gone.
Juxtaposition.
Yeah, they're back to that Cypress Hill dude. They're getting high, binging, and then binging it out.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so skinny and so hungry.
Well, it's funny. My wife is literally a black SUV mom,
Nice.
and I think she doesn't blare Guns N' Roses, but
I
I think it's all.
Yeah.
I think all women. I don't know. I would be curious. Does the white SUV mom also use the side door panel as a trash can? Because that's one thing I can't get over.
No, that
your
is a
car
black
is not a
SUV
trash can.
mom thing. And the black SUV mom's
That's a black SUV mom.
I'll do it later. The white SUV mom is like, okay, we're gonna sort our recycling in the SUV. So, here is a basket for aluminum and plastic, and then all paper goes in the paper bag in back. Thanks.
Thanks. All right, before we go, I wanted to play this clip. I haven't seen it, but I find it fascinating. Floyd Mayweather, I think, who probably has an argument as one of the greatest boxers of all time, if not the greatest boxer of all time.
I mean, he's the guy.
Was on
the defense wins championships. That's
right.
They say that about football, they say that about baseball, but this is apropos, and that phrase was made for Floyd Mayweather.
100%. And then counterpunch. Defense and then counterpunch. And he was on Making Money with Charles Payne, and he said this yesterday.
At least I'm happy, but we're never happy. Well, we had Trump before. We didn't appreciate him, but I think Trump is a great president. Actually, he's the best president in my eyes. He's the best president we ever had. A great businessman, and that's what it's about.
There you go. Floyd Mayweather. It's the kind of thing that when I was in sports over 5 years ago would have been so controversial for race reasons, sports reasons, everything. And I don't even know if that's going to make much news today, Kennedy.
No, I think there's so many athletes who have come out and said the same thing. But also, in that interview, Charles like, is it true that you have a $400 million real estate portfolio just in New York? He's like, it's actually bigger than that. So Floyd Mayweather is a person who has invested his money wisely. He's got a line of supplements, and he is an aspirational person. He knows what greatness is, and he wants to apply that to every aspect of his life. So who would you rather have as your president? Someone who wants to confiscate your wealth and make you feel bad about your success, or someone who wants to encourage everybody to be as successful as they possibly can because they know if you have a successful company, you are going to employ Americans and make other people's lives better. So I would, personally, I would rather have a president who high-fives success as opposed to, Bernie Sanders, I imagine, would watch that and go, he is a concussed oligarch. Yeah, this is a person who just wants to be a billionaire and has had his bell rung too many times. We have to take that away. He has too many choices.
It's really good, both in substance and style. Your Bernie Sanders is really good.
Thank you.
Disturbingly good. Is that your best impression, Bernie Sanders?
I would like to think my Jodie Foster is my best impression. Jodie Foster is Clarice Starling.
I know.
He
Give me a
said,
little more, Jodie
what
Foster.
did multiple Migs say to you? He said, no, I can't use that line. Wait, was she a great big fat person? Yeah, she was a big girl, sir.
It is good, but the whole thing, you've got the scene. You got Buffalo Bill and Clarice Starling.
I love that
I
scene
don't
so
know.
much.
Wait, was she a great big fat person?
Wait, was she a great big fat person? Yeah, she was a big girl, sir.
I think Bernie might take the cake, honestly. But maybe Jodie Foster, but you got to give her a little more. You gave me a lot of Bernie Sanders. I'll tell you what, though, you can get more of that on Kennedy Saves the World. Of course, you're going to see her on Outnumbered, her columns. Stuart Varney sitting in from time to time on the 5, but on a regular basis by subscribing to Kennedy Saves the World. Thank you so much, Kennedy.
Thank you, Will. Great to talk to you.
You too. All right, you, the Willitia, join us next here on the Will Cain Show. We'll see who can pass a quiz on American culture. It is the Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel and the Fox News Facebook page. 13th Apostle says, Will, come on now. One more button. Man up. LOL. Got a little too much chest hair showing, according to the 13th Apostle. It's tough. It's always tough. I am 49 years old and have not conquered the 1 versus 2 buttons. Just can't conquer it. Can't conquer it. Don't know.
No,
Right,
definitely
one
one
more
down.
button up.
Yeah, I don't. That's too buttoned
What?
up for. That's too buttoned up for our show. Yeah, you got to go back down.
Look at that. It just feels wrong.
It's wrong.
You two buttons tinfoil. I have a buddy that listens to the show, and he bought me a shirt with some kind of hidden button. It's like a brand that's making them. Why doesn't everybody just adjust the button spot? You know what I mean? Like, it's not that I want to be 2 buttons down, but I wouldn't mind a button right between these two.
Start a shirt company.
That would be perfect.
We already have the templates made. I mean, you can't go changing the machines and stuff.
Oh, that could be it. By the way, speaking of shirts, Suzanne says on YouTube, Saint needs a Willitia shirt.
We need to make
Saint
them.
left. He was here for the first half
I
of
need
the show.
some too.
Yeah. He has not conquered broadcasting yet. I give him a C+ tops on his performance during the show.
Yeah.
It's distracting.
Trying to bite things.
At one point during the Kennedy could you hear that?
Yeah.
Him trying to He does that every once in a while. So he just bit the desk.
Yeah.
He's just like, I'm just going to bite the desk.
I heard it on the mic. I was like, I heard the.
Yeah. And then he sat down behind me. And you know the little knob on the chair that adjusts the height and all that?
Yeah.
He started biting it. And he's not actually chewing it. He's not damaging anything. But he's just like, I'm just going to put my teeth on this for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no. So he's a C+. Christopher Perkins says, regarding the gold card plan, this will only make the wealth gap grow between the rich and the poor. See, now that's interesting. I want you to think about that for a minute, Christopher. So the wealth gap, okay? The way that the left thinks about the wealth gap, and we can't fall into this trap as we become more attuned to the middle class and more in tune to populism. A lot of the wealth gap conversation rests upon an economic idea that there is a giant pile of money, a finite fixed amount of money, and everybody gets their turn, but the billionaires go in with pitchforks and 10 minutes ahead of everybody else, and you come in with fists. You know what I mean? And so they get more. So it's a zero-sum game is the idea. And I think that idea is on its face patently false. Like, otherwise, wealth is not the amount of money that you have. Wealth truly is the way in which you're capable of living, right? Wealth is how much you have versus how much you make. There's how much do you make? That question is meaningless. How much do you have is more important than how much do you make. But wealth as a society is how do you live? And everybody's standard of living has been raised exponentially over time because of capitalism. That is the whole rising tide lifts all boats theory, right? But so if you think it's a zero-sum game, if you do believe that, and yeah, okay, but there's still only so much wealth in the world at any given moment, and the gap exists, well, what does bringing rich people from the outside mean? You see what I'm saying? They're bringing theirs from somewhere else and coming in. And yeah, maybe the wealth gap grows, but how does their wealth, which they bring from the outside, negatively impact those inside who are at the bottom end of the wealth gap? Like, explain that to me. You can't reconcile those two things. So it may truly mean there are more rich people, and on a stats chart sheet, it looks as a bigger gap. But tell me how their presence and their outside money that they're bringing in to invest or to create companies on their own, how does that make the others in America worse off? How? You know? I don't know the answer to that question.
I don't think it does. I think
good shot,
I think
Jansen.
yeah.
Go ahead, Tinfoil.
Sorry. I think you're better off having wealthier people come in, at 250,000 versus millions and millions of people on the bottom end of the economy taking up, lower end housing, things like that, because that creates disturbances in the market.
Yeah. And has less economic benefit on the idea of a rising tide lifts all boats, right?
Exactly.
They're consuming public resources instead of contributing to public resources.
Yes.
Good shot. Jansen says it should be 10 million, not 5 million for the gold card.
Yeah, why not?
Oh, this is kind of interesting. So Chase Hadley says Macron is so annoying. He's clearly trying to game Trump on the handshake.
Macaroni.
That we played a little bit earlier. I thought it was just. I just thought it was a misspelling.
No.
I like that.
That's like, that's a journalism question. Do you correct someone else's mispronunciations or whatever? Like if I'm quoting someone and they butcher it and they sound illiterate, do I clean that up or do I put it exactly as they said it?
I think that was meant as a diss, but yeah.
I get it. I know. On that same topic,
sorry.
Cal Vidian says, viral images circulated around the internet this week showing a gigantic bruise on Donald Trump's right hand. The White House claims that the bruise is simply due to vigorous handshaking. Funny. Is that a joke or is that a real thing? Was there stuff about Trump having a bruise? Really?
Yeah, he has a big bruise on the back of his right hand.
Is this
and I think it was being covered up by a bandage at one point. And then they said that it was due to handshaking a lot. Like he just shakes a lot of hands during the day.
Wow, really? Huh. The 13th Apostle jumps in again, by the way, says, when Yamaha created the Zinger three-wheeler, they forgot that turns exist.
I remember those.
That's such a great... You do or don't?
I do.
Do you remember... Yeah, three-wheelers in general. Like, here's a great idea. Yeah. Three-wheeler. Was there not anybody in the back room that goes... What happens when you turn?
My uncle had a trike motorcycle, like a three-wheel motorcycle, and it was just not convenient at all.
Do they make something like that now?
But I think
like
they
the
do.
Zinger was a short wheelbase, right? So a three-wheeler, short wheelbase. So you turn, and obviously you'd pitch over the front end. But now when they make three-wheelers like, those, it's like a Can-Am's is a Can-Am... those car things that you can see people driving in the streets? Aren't some of those like a three-wheeler? They are, but they're reversed. It's two in the front, one in the back.
Yeah, those are
I
two
think
in
that's
the
what
front.
they're doing.
Yeah. Like the Prowlers, too. Not the Prowlers,
Yeah. Yeah.
The Spiders.
My son is thinking about, yesterday we had a parent-teacher conference, and it was like, what do you want to study over the long term? And he's always been kind of interested in engineering, right? So the question, but he's not so much now, so he's trying to figure out business, engineering, and, should I take mechanical engineering? Was there no mechanical engineer employed by Yamaha? They could have said, these things, that's a bad idea, guys. All right, Dylan Stubblefield says, quit playing, let's see the list. It's not out, Dylan. We're waiting on the Epstein logs. We're waiting on the Epstein list. It's just not out. Sorry, man. It's my favorite thing everybody gets mad at me about on the Fox News channel. You're not carrying Trump. It's because Trump's not out yet. developed this idea that everybody's against Trump, and therefore, if we don't play Trump, then we're against Trump. There is one day that we did bail out of Trump. One day, we explained here. But if the list were out, we'd be doing it right now.
I'm scouring.
Part of the Foreign Intelligence Services. Okay. If everybody jumps in the comments and says we're wrong, then you got to listen to the people.
Yeah, the live chat is very contentious about hearing the list. Sorry, guys, we don't have it yet.
I keep thinking it's found, but it's just people posting the rosters of their least favorite sports team. And I'm like, well, all right, you can only tell that joke so many times.
Maybe it'll come out at 4 o'clock like every other piece of news in the world.
Yep, 4:02, right on
Make
the
sure
dot.
you tune in to. Make sure you listen to the Will Cain Show. Watch the Will Cain Show on Fox News. All right, let's do this pop culture quiz,
Okay.
American culture quiz. Take it away, 2 days.
All right, little music. Which state grows up to 90% of the country's strawberries each year, making it the largest strawberry producer in the nation? Florida, New York, California, or North Carolina?
I think Cali? Is this for all of us?
I'm going California.
California?
Yeah, I'm going California. We can all go.
I'm going to go North Carolina, but we'll go California.
I think North Carolina.
Yeah, me too.
It seems like a trick answer.
Oh.
That's
Correct,
Cali.
California. That was the answer.
Boom. All right.
All right. Which U.S. president officially recognized Black History Month in the 1970s when he extended the observance of Black history from a week to a month? Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan.
Jimmy Carter.
I didn't know this. It went from a week to a month.
Yeah.
Feels like a Carter move.
Well,
Yeah.
okay.
Maybe.
So you
So
guys are
probably
going
Ford.
Carter. What are you going today?
I'm going Ford.
1970s.
Got 3 options.
I'm going to go Ford.
I think I'm going Ford. I'm not going to do Carter. It's either Nixon or Ford, I think. And
Yeah.
actually, I'm going to go Nixon.
All right,
I'm gonna go Nixon.
we're going with Will's answer. So we're going Nixon.
Okay.
Wrong. It was Gerald Ford.
Gerald Ford.
All right,
Keep track
next
of your own score.
Next one. Which of these women is not featured in the suffrage monument located in the U.S. Capitol Rotunda and unveiled in February 1921? Lucretia Mott, Susan B. Anthony, Mary Church Terrell, or Elizabeth Cady Stanton?
I'm going to go with Mary.
I only know one of those women.
Same.
I only know one of who they are.
Which is not featured.
Damn, Will.
I'm going to go Mary Church Terrell.
Do you honestly? Okay, hold on. I mean, you're going to throw a damn Will on it. Okay.
Sorry.
2 days, I want you to go through the names one at a time. Okay? Say the names again.
Lucretia Mott.
Who's Lucretia Mott, James?
Suffragist.
Come on, James.
Maybe.
like from sometime in between 1850 and 1920. There's 3 names here. First, they had that big meeting in upstate New York, and then they picketed outside the White House.
Lucretia
like 50
Mott
years
was
later.
an American abolitionist.
Oh, so she was one of the
Died in
original.
1880.
All right.
Okay.
Keep going quickly.
Susan B. Anthony,
Oh, it might be Mont. then.
Know her.
Mary Church Terrell,
No idea.
Don't know her.
No idea.
Elizabeth Cady Stanton. I know that name.
It actually might be Mont.
Because you probably heard of an admiral. Wasn't there an Admiral Stanton?
Yeah, but the Cady part.
No, I think
C-A-D-Y, Cady.
Anthony and Stanton are related. Terrell, no idea.
I think it's Terrell is not featured.
It might be Mont because she's
I'm
the
going with
abolitionist.
I'm going with Lucretia Mott.
All right, we're going with
Not
Lucretia Mott.
not in there.
Wrong. It was,
So it was
Mary Church
Terrell.
Terrell. All right.
Yeah.
Which of the below was established as a national park on February 26, 1919, when President Woodrow Wilson signed the legislation for it? Badlands, Everglades, Yellowstone, Grand Canyon. Which of the below was established as a national park in 1919 by Woodrow Wilson? Badlands, Everglades, Yellowstone, Grand Canyon.
I'm going to say Yellowstone.
All right, say your answers.
I'm going to say
Everglades.
You're going Yellowstone?
I'm going Badlands because it's the one that doesn't really associate with it. Teddy Roosevelt.
I'm actually going to go Badlands too. I think it's either Badlands or Everglades. I'm going Badlands.
All right, Badlands. It is the Grand Canyon. Yeah,
Jeez, doing terrible.
I know.
Only got one.
Which American author, coach, speaker, and entrepreneur born on February 29th holds numerous events each year to enable others to master their lives, relationships, and careers? Is it Martha Beck, Kevin O'Leary, Tony Robbins, or Barbara Corcoran?
Friend of the program, Tony Robbins.
Had a baby.
Yep.
Correct.
Sir.
Tony Robbins. All right. Babies born on leap day are called leapers or leaplings. True or false? Leapers or
False.
leaplings?
Never heard either.
Okay.
Never heard
False.
either term.
False. It's
Huh.
true. Leapers
So
or leaplings.
We just make things up now.
Nonsense. Yeah, nonsense. Nobody
All right.
says that.
Who did Muhammad Ali beat in the 1964 World Heavyweight Championship, resulting in the 22-year-old's first major boxing title? This is easy. Joe Frazier, Leon Spinks, Sonny Liston, George Foreman.
Watch a little Mad Men.
Hold on, James. Do you know it?
Darn it. Sonny Liston?
Was this his first heavyweight fight championship? Not Olympic, you said, right?
First major
Heavyweight.
boxing title.
First major boxing title at 22 years old in 1964.
Yeah, it's Sonny Liston.
Okay.
Correct.
How
right.
James know that?
I think this is the last one. Hattie McDaniel made history in 1940 after becoming the first African American to win an Oscar film for which film? An Oscar for which film? Ragtime, Carmen Jones, Gone with the Wind, or Lady Sings the Blues?
1940?
First African American to win an Oscar in 1940. Hattie McDaniel.
Well, I've only heard of Ragtime and Gone with the Wind of those four.
I'm going to go Lady Sings the Blues.
We'll go Ragtime.
I'm
going to go
with
Gone with the Wind.
Gone with the Wind? Gone with the Wind is
Okay.
correct.
You got it.
Thanks for playing. 4 out of 8, Will.
All right. 4 out of 8.
Yeah.
50%.
I'm very cultured.
I'll
Yeah.
take it.
Yeah, that could have gone a lot worse, though.
All right. How did you do? Let us know. Drop it in the comments. You, the members of the Willitia. That's going to do it for us today. We'll see you again tomorrow. Same time, same place. Fox News YouTube, foxnews.com, Fox News Facebook. Or see you today, 4 o'clock on the Fox News channel.